Because Cole doesn't care who you are, and kindness shouldn't either. Those words would shatter a town's prejudice and bring 350 men roaring back through a Montana blizzard. But before we tell you how a 74-year-old widow named Evelyn Harper changed everything with one impossible decision, hit that subscribe button right now. Stay with me until the very end of this story and drop a comment telling me what city you are watching from. I want to see how far Evelyn's miracle can travel. Now let's go back to that frozen night when everything changed. Evelyn Harper's hands shook as she gripped the kitchen counter, staring at the foreclosure notice she'd pulled from the drawer for the 100th time. The paper was worn soft from her fingers, tracing the words over and over. Final notice. 30 days. She folded it slowly and tucked it back beneath the stack of unpaid medical bills, then shut the drawer like closing a coffin. Outside, the February wind screamed against the farmhouse walls. Snow piled against the windows in white drifts that looked almost beautiful. If you didn't know, they meant death for anyone caught outside. The thermometer nailed to the porch post read 8 degrees. Inside, with the furnace barely wheezing warm air through half the vents, it wasn't much better. Evelyn pulled her dead husband's flannel shirt tighter around her shoulders. Tom had been gone 6 years now. 6 years of the house falling apart one piece at a time. 6 years of her son David's phone calls getting shorter and less frequent until they stopped altogether. 6 years of Silver Creek's townspeople looking at her with pity but never actually helping. She didn't blame them. Everyone had their own problems. The soup beans bubbled on the stove her dinner and probably tomorrow's lunch. She'd stretched 2 bags across the whole week. The bread was 3 days old, but still good if you toasted it. She was figuring out how to make it last another 2 days when the sound hit. At first she thought it was thunder. Then she realized thunder didn't growl like that. Didn't build and build until the windows rattled in their frames. Motorcycles. Evelyn moved to the front window and pulled back the curtain. Through the swirling snow, she saw headlights. Dozens of them, cutting through the storm like angry yellow eyes. Her heart hammered. She'd heard the stories. Everyone in Silver Creek had. The Hells Angels rode through Montana every few years, and when they did, people locked their doors and pretended not to be home. The engines grew louder. Closer. Then they stopped. Right in front of her house. Evelyn's breath fogged the window as she watched dark figures dismount from the bikes. Big men in leather jackets. She counted 10, 15, 20. More kept coming. They were gathering in her front yard, stamping their boots, shaking snow from their shoulders. Someone pounded on her door. 3 heavy knocks that made the whole frame shudder. Evelyn's instinct screamed at her to hide. Lock the deadbolt, turn off the lights, pretend nobody was home. But she'd lived 74 years by a different instinct. She walked to the door and opened it. The man standing on her porch was massive, 6'4", easily 250 pounds, with a gray beard that hung to his chest and eyes that looked like they'd seen things nobody should see. His leather vest was covered in patches. Across the back, she could just make out the words, Hells Angels, Montana. Behind him, 36 more men stood in the snow. "Ma'am," the big man said, and his voice was surprisingly gentle. "I'm real sorry to bother you. My name's Cole Maddox. We got caught in this storm when the highway pileup shut down the pass. We've been riding for 6 hours trying to find shelter. Every business in town is closed. Every hotel says they're full." He paused. "They ain't full, they just don't want us." Evelyn looked past him at the men shivering in her yard. Some of them looked young, barely older than boys. Others looked like they'd lived 3 lifetimes. All of them looked frozen. "How many?" she asked. 37, ma'am." 37, Evelyn calculated quickly. The living room could fit maybe 20 if they squeezed. The dining room another 10. The rest could take the sunroom, even though it barely had heat. "You boys allergic to anything?" Cole blinked. "Ma'am, allergic to food. I got soup beans and cornbread. It ain't much, but if you're hungry..." "Wait," Cole held up a hand. "You're inviting us in." "Well, I ain't inviting you to stand in the snow." Evelyn pulled the door wider. "You're letting all the heat out. Get in here." For a moment, nobody moved. The bikers just stared at her like she'd spoken a foreign language. Then Cole turned to his men and nodded. They came inside like a cautious army, stomping snow off their boots, pulling off their gloves, looking around the small farmhouse like they couldn't believe where they were. The living room filled up fast, then the dining room. Men sat on the floor, leaned against walls, crowded into corners. Evelyn surveyed her suddenly full house and realized she'd just invited 37 strangers into a home that barely fed one. "All right," she said loudly. "I got soup beans on the stove, probably enough for everyone to get a bowl if we don't go crazy. There's half a loaf of bread I can toast. After that, I got some old quilts in the closet you can use for blankets. It ain't the Ritz, but it's warm." A younger biker with a scar across his cheek spoke up. "Ma'am, you don't have to." "I know I don't have to," Evelyn cut him off. "But it's 8 degrees outside and you boys look like frozen scarecrows. Now sit down before you track more snow on my carpet." Someone laughed, then someone else. Soon the whole room was chuckling and the tension broke like ice cracking. Evelyn went to the kitchen and started ladling soup into every bowl and cup she owned. The beans were thin, she'd been stretching them, but she added water and more salt and pepper and prayed it would be enough. She toasted the bread in batches, sliced it thin, stacked it on plates. Cole appeared in the kitchen doorway. "Ma'am, let me help." "You can carry these bowls out," Evelyn said, handing him a tray. "But don't you dare eat until everyone else has theirs." Cole smiled, actually smiled. It changed his whole face. "Yes, ma'am." They served the soup assembly line style. Evelyn watched as 37 hungry men ate her food without complaint, even though it was barely enough. Some of them closed their eyes while they ate like it was the best meal they'd ever had. Others scraped their bowls clean and looked embarrassed to want more. "Anyone still hungry?" Evelyn called out. Every hand went up. She went back to the kitchen and opened the cabinet. 1 can of tomato soup, a box of crackers, some peanut butter that was probably expired but smelled okay. She made it work. By midnight, everyone had eaten something. The bikers had settled into spots around the house using their jackets as pillows, talking in low voices. Some of them fell asleep sitting up. Others stared at the ceiling like they couldn't believe they weren't still out in the storm. Evelyn was gathering the empty bowls when Cole found her again. "Ma'am, I need to ask you something." "Go ahead." "Why'd you open the door?" "You don't know us. You saw our patches. You know what people say about us." Evelyn set down the bowls and looked at him directly. "My husband used to say you can tell a lot about a person by how they treat strangers. He said the world's full of people who'll help you when it's easy, but the ones who help when it's hard, those are the ones worth knowing." "Your husband sounds like a good man." "He was." Evelyn's voice went soft. "He died 6 years ago. Heart attack. Right there in the living room where your boys are sleeping." Cole was quiet for a moment. "I'm sorry." "Don't be. He lived a good life. Worked hard, loved harder." She picked up the bowls again. "Anyway, I figured if Tom were here, he'd have opened the door too. So I did it for him." "What about your family? You got kids." "One son, David, lives in Seattle. We don't talk much." Evelyn's mouth tightened. "He got busy with his life. I got old. That's how it goes." Cole looked around the kitchen. Evelyn saw him noticing things she'd stopped seeing: the crack in the ceiling, the water stain on the wall, the cabinet door hanging crooked on its hinges. "How long you lived here?" he asked. 47 years. Tom built most of it himself. Raised our boy here. Thought we'd grow old here together." She smiled sadly. "Well, I got the growing old part right." "It's a good house." "It's a falling apart house," Evelyn corrected, "but it's mine. For another month anyway. Then the bank takes it." She said it matter-of-fact like she was talking about the weather. But Cole heard something crack in her voice. "You mind if I look around?" he asked. "Look around at what?" "The house. I used to do construction before—" He gestured at his vest. "Before all this. I just want to see something." Evelyn shrugged. "Knock yourself out. Just don't go upstairs. Half the steps are rotted through." Cole disappeared. Evelyn finished the dishes and made a pot of weak coffee with the last of her grounds. She was pouring it into mugs when she heard voices from the living room. "No way that furnace makes it through winter. Roof's got at least 3 leaks I can see." Foundations cracked on the north side. Evelyn walked in to find Cole and 4 other bikers examining her house like doctors diagnosing a patient. One of them had pulled back a loose piece of wallpaper. Another was shining a flashlight up at the ceiling. "What are you doing?" Evelyn asked. A biker with a long ponytail turned to her. "Ma'am, when's the last time someone fixed anything here?" "I fix things." I mean really fix things, professionally. Evelyn's defenses went up. I do fine. Ma'am, you got black mold in your walls, Cole said quietly. Your wiring's probably from the 70s. That furnace is running on prayers. And those stairs, he shook his head. You're gonna fall through them one day and break your neck. Well, good thing I don't use the upstairs anymore, Evelyn snapped. The room went silent. Then Cole said, Why'd you really let us in? Evelyn looked at him. At all of them, these big, scary-looking men who were staring at her with something like understanding. Because nobody else would, she said simply. And I know what that feels like. The admission hung in the air like smoke. A biker near the window spoke up. There's a toolbox in my saddlebag. That water pipe in your bathroom's been dripping since we got here. I can fix that in 20 minutes. You don't have to. I know, he said. But I'm gonna. Another biker stood. Your generator's making a sound it shouldn't make. I can take a look. Boys really emo. Ma'am, Cole said gently, you gave us shelter when the whole world locked us out. Let us give something back. Evelyn opened her mouth to argue, but then she saw their faces. They weren't offering out of pity. They were offering because that's what you did when someone showed you kindness. All right, she said finally, but don't break anything. Someone laughed. Can't break what's already broken, ma'am. For the next 3 hours, Evelyn watched in amazement as her house slowly stopped dying. The water pipe quit dripping. The generator stopped rattling. Someone tightened the loose cabinet door. Someone else patched the crack in the living room wall. At 3 a.m, she found Cole outside in the snow, staring up at her roof. You should be sleeping, she told him. Can't, Cole said. Too busy thinking. About what? About how this house needs $10,000 of work minimum, probably more like 20, and about how you let 37 strangers into it without blinking. Evelyn pulled Tom's flannel tighter. What's your point? Cole turned to look at her. His eyes were different now, softer. My point is, people like you don't exist anymore. And when they do, they deserve better than this. I'm fine. You're not fine. You're broken, alone, and living in a house that's trying to kill you. He said it without meanness, just fact. But you still opened your door. So what? Evelyn's voice rose. So what if I opened the door? What difference does it make? You'll leave in the morning, the storm will clear, and I'll still be here with a house that's falling apart and a son who doesn't call and a bank that wants to take everything I got left. She was breathing hard, angry, not at him, at everything. Cole didn't flinch. You're right, we will leave in the morning. But before we do, I need to ask you something. When's your birthday? Evelyn blinked. What kind of question is that? Just answer it. March 14th, why? Cole nodded slowly. 3 weeks. That's good. That's enough time. Enough time for what? But Cole just smiled and walked back inside, leaving Evelyn standing in the snow, confused and exhausted and wondering what on earth she'd just agreed to. Inside, Cole gathered his brothers into a tight circle in the kitchen. They spoke in whispers, passing a piece of paper around, adding numbers, nodding. The young biker with the scar asked, You sure about this? Yeah, Cole said, I'm sure. The chapter presidents aren't going to like it. Then I'll handle the chapter presidents. Cole's voice went hard. That woman fed us when she had nothing. She gave us shelter when the world wouldn't. If we ride out of here tomorrow without doing right by her, we ain't worth the patches on our backs. A biker with gray hair and sergeant stripes tattooed on his arm spoke up. You know, if we do this, it ain't just going to be us. Word's going to spread. Chapters from 3 states are going to want in. Good, Cole said. Let them come. We talking Montana, Wyoming. We're talking everyone, every chapter within 500 miles. I want every brother who can swing a hammer here in 3 weeks. The room went quiet as the weight of what he was proposing settled in. Finally, the ponytailed biker grinned. You want to build a house? I want to rebuild a life, Cole corrected. And we got 3 weeks to do it. At dawn, the storm finally broke. The sky turned pale gray, then pink, then blue. The highway patrol radioed that the pass was clear. It was time to leave. The bikers filed out of Evelyn's house, one by one, shaking her hand, thanking her, looking back at the farmhouse like they were leaving something important behind. Cole was the last one out. Thank you, ma'am, he said, for everything. You're welcome. You boys be safe out there. We will. He pulled on his gloves. Oh, and ma'am, don't make any plans for March 14th. Why not? Because you're going to have company. Evelyn frowned. What kind of company? But Cole just smiled, climbed on his bike, and roared off into the morning with his brothers behind him. Evelyn stood on her porch watching them disappear down Highway 12, wondering what the hell that man had meant. Inside, she found her kitchen spotless. The dishes done, the floor swept, and on the counter, a stack of $20 bills with a note written in rough handwriting for the soup beans. The brothers, Evelyn counted the money. $200. She sat down at her kitchen table and cried for the first time in 6 months. 3 states away, Cole Maddox pulled into a truck stop, gathered his exhausted men around him, and made a phone call that would change everything. Yeah, it's Cole, Montana chapter. I need you to get a message to every president from here to Nevada. Tell them we got a project, a big one. Tell them we need bodies, tools, supplies, everything. He paused. Tell them it's for a woman who opened her door when the world closed theirs. Tell them we ride back in 3 weeks. And tell them if they love their mothers, they'll come. He hung up and looked at his brothers. What now? Someone asked. Cole smiled. Now we get to work, because in 3 weeks, we're going to give that woman back everything she gave us, and more. The phone call reached Nevada first. Marcus Torch Williams was rebuilding a carburetor in his garage when his cell rang. He listened for 30 seconds, then dropped his wrench. You're serious. Dead serious, the voice on the other end said. Cole's calling in every favor, every chapter. He wants 300 plus in Montana by March 14th. For what? A house for a widow who fed his whole crew during that blizzard. Torch was quiet, then he said, I'm in. Who else you called? Everyone. Wyoming's already mobilizing. Colorado's sending 40. Idaho's got a lumber contact. What about materials? Cole's working on it, but he needs bodies more than anything. Bodies who know how to build. Torch looked at the calendar on his garage wall. 3 weeks. Tell Cole I'm bringing 15 from Vegas. And tell him we ain't coming empty-handed. The call ended. Torch stood there for a moment, then walked inside where his wife was making dinner. Baby, he said, I gotta go to Montana. She didn't even look up from the stove. How long the week? Maybe more. What for? To build a house. Now she looked up. You're gonna build a house, you. Me and about 300 other guys. His wife stared at him, then slowly smiled. Must be one hell of a woman. From what Cole says, she's the only one who opened her door when everyone else locked theirs. His wife nodded. Then you better not come home until it's done right. The calls multiplied like wildfire. Chapter presidents called their members. Members called their friends. Friends called their brothers from other clubs who owed them favors. Within 48 hours, the plan had spread across 5 states. But back in Silver Creek, Evelyn Harper knew none of this. She spent the $200 carefully, bought groceries that would last, paid the electric bill, put 20 back for emergencies. The rest she folded into the foreclosure notice envelope, knowing it wouldn't be enough but sending it anyway. On the 5th day after the bikers left, Sheriff Tom Westbrook showed up at her door. Evelyn. Sheriff, can I come in? She let him in. He stood in her living room looking uncomfortable, turning his hat in his hands. Something I can help you with, Evelyn asked. It's more something I can help you with, he cleared his throat. I heard about what happened with the bikers during the storm. What about it? Evelyn, those men are dangerous. You know that, right? Evelyn crossed her arms. They seemed pretty polite to me. They're criminals. Most of them got records, assault, weapons charges, some worse. They fixed my water pipe. What? My water pipe. It had been dripping for 8 months. One of them fixed it in 20 minutes. Another one got my generator running right. They ate soup beans and said thank you and didn't steal a single thing from this house. The sheriff shifted his weight. I'm just saying you need to be careful. Those guys come back. If those guys come back, I'll feed them again, Evelyn said firmly. Now if you're done warning me, I got laundry to do. Westbrook left looking frustrated, but word spread anyway. The whole town knew Evelyn had sheltered the bikers. At the grocery store, people whispered. At church, they stared. Nobody said anything to her face, but she felt their judgment like cold wind. Her neighbor, Margaret Chen, was the only one who spoke up. You're braver than me, Margaret said, catching Evelyn in the parking lot. I would have been terrified. I was terrified, Evelyn admitted, but being scared ain't a good enough reason to let people freeze. Margaret studied her. You're a better person than most of us, Evelyn. I'm just a person, Margaret, same as everyone. But Margaret shook her head. No, you're really not. Meanwhile, in Wyoming, Cole Maddox was discovering that organizing 300 bikers was like herding angry cats. I can't get time off work, one chapter president said. Then quit, Cole shot back. Quit. You heard me? This is more important than your job. That woman saved 37 lives. We're going to save hers. By building a house. By showing her that kindness ain't wasted. That people still give a damn. That brotherhood means something. Cole's voice went hard. You in or out? The president was quiet. Then he said, I'm in, and I'm bringing my crew. Cole made 40 calls just like that. Some people pushed back. Some didn't understand. But most of them remembered times when they'd been on the receiving end of unexpected kindness. Times when someone had helped them when they didn't deserve it. And they came. The logistics were nightmare. Cole needed lumber, roofing materials, windows, plumbing supplies, electrical wire, paint, tools, equipment, and he needed it all donated or bought cheap because nobody had money to spare. A biker named Tommy Wrench Patterson, who ran a construction company in Bozeman, made one phone call and got lumber donated. Another brother who worked at a window manufacturer got glass at cost. A third knew a guy who had a warehouse full of surplus materials from a canceled project. Piece by piece, it came together. But Cole's biggest problem wasn't materials. It was the house itself. He needed blueprints, plans, someone who actually knew what they were doing. He found that someone in a dive bar in Billings. Ray Kowalski was 72 years old, a retired architect who'd built half the buildings in Montana before his hands got too shaky for detailed work. He was nursing a beer when Cole sat down next to him. Ray Kowalski. Who's asking? Someone who needs help building a house in 3 weeks, Ray laughed. 3 weeks, son, you can't build a decent doghouse in 3 weeks. Watch me. Something in Cole's voice made Ray look at him. Really look at him. Tell me why, Ray said. So Cole told him about the storm, about Evelyn, about how she'd opened her door when the world closed theirs, about how she was losing everything and didn't deserve to. When he finished, Ray was quiet for a long time. You're serious about this, Ray finally said. Dead serious. How many guys you got? 300, maybe more. Ray whistled. You're either crazy or brilliant. Maybe both. He drained his beer. All right, I'm in. But we do this right. No half-assed work. That woman deserves better than slapped together garbage. Agreed. I'll need to see the property, take measurements, draw up plans, and you'll need permits. No permits. Ray stared at him. You can't build without permits. Watch me. That's illegal. So's letting an old woman freeze to death in a house the bank's stealing, Cole said flatly. We doing this or not? Ray considered. Then he stood up and threw money on the bar. Let's go look at this house. They drove to Silver Creek that night. Ray examined the farmhouse with a flashlight and a measuring tape, muttering to himself, taking notes. Evelyn was asleep inside, unaware that 2 men were walking around her property planning to tear it down. It's worse than I thought, Ray said finally. How bad? Foundations compromised. Framing's rotted in places. Electrical's a fire hazard. Plumbing's held together with rust and prayers. He looked at Cole. You can't fix this house. You gotta rebuild it. Then we rebuild it. In 3 weeks. In 3 weeks. Ray ran calculations in his head. You'll need excavation equipment, a concrete crew, framers, roofers, electricians, plumbers, finish crew. And that's if everything goes perfect, which it won't. I got 300 guys who will work around the clock. You got 300 guys who know what they're doing. Cole smiled. Some of us have skills you wouldn't believe. Ray studied the house one more time. Then he said, all right, but I'm running this show. You get me bodies, I'll tell them what to do. Deal. Deal. They shook hands in the dark while Evelyn slept unaware that her life was about to change forever. 2 weeks before March 14th, the materials started arriving. Trucks pulled into a storage facility outside Silver Creek at night, dropping off pallets of lumber, boxes of nails, bundles of shingles. The facility owner, a Vietnam vet named Frank, who'd heard about the project, didn't ask questions. just gave Cole a key and said, "Lock up when you're done." The town started noticing something was happening. Strangers were asking questions about Evelyn Harper, making phone calls, taking pictures of her house from the road. Margaret Chen called Evelyn. "Do you know there's people watching your house?" "What people?" "I don't know, but they're driving by slow, taking pictures. It's weird." Evelyn looked out her window, saw nothing. Probably just lost tourists. In February in Silver Creek. But Evelyn didn't have time to worry about it. She had her own problems. The bank had called twice. Her son David had finally returned her voicemail from 3 weeks ago with a text, "Busy. We'll call soon." He never did. And the house kept falling apart. A pipe burst in the bathroom. The front step cracked. The bedroom window wouldn't close all the way. Evelyn fixed what she could and ignored what she couldn't. 1 week before March 14th, Sheriff Westbrook showed up again. "Evelyn, we need to talk." "About what?" "About the bikers. They're coming back." Evelyn's heart jumped. "What?" "I got word from Montana Highway Patrol. There's been chatter. Large group forming up. They think it's the Hells Angels. They think they're coming here." "How do you know?" "Because 3 different chapters have been calling local businesses asking about Silver Creek, about supplies, about this address." He looked at her seriously. "Evelyn, I think they're planning something." "Like what?" "I don't know, but I'm putting extra deputies on alert. If they show up, you'll do nothing," Evelyn said firmly. "Those men help me. They're not criminals. They're literally criminals. I ran their records. I don't care about their records. I care about how they treated me, and they treated me like family." Westbrook sighed. "Just promise me you'll be careful." "I'm always careful." He left, shaking his head, but Evelyn felt something stir in her chest. Hope. Crazy, impossible hope. Were they really coming back? On March 13th, Cole Maddox stood in a Walmart parking lot in Butte, addressing the largest gathering of Hells Angels Montana had seen in 20 years. 347 bikers, 42 trucks loaded with materials, equipment, tools, food, everything they'd need. "Tomorrow morning," Cole said, his voice carrying across the parking lot, "we roll into Silver Creek at sunrise. We got 1 week to rebuild that house. 1 week to show that woman her kindness wasn't wasted." "What if the cops show up?" someone yelled. "Then we deal with it, but we don't stop working." "What if the town tries to shut us down?" "Then we work faster." A biker named Snake raised his hand. "What if we can't finish in a week?" Cole looked at him. "Then we don't leave until we do. That woman opened her door when she had every reason to keep it closed. We're going to give her a home that'll last the rest of her life. We're going to show her that brotherhood means something, that people still give a damn, that kindness ain't dead in this world." The parking lot erupted in cheers, engines revved, fists pumped the air. Ray Kowalski, standing next to Cole, leaned over. "You know this is insane, right?" "Yeah," Cole said. "But insane's what we do best." That night, Evelyn couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about what the sheriff had said, about the bikers coming back, about the way Cole had looked at her house like he was seeing something she couldn't see. At 2 in the morning, she got out of bed and made tea, sat at her kitchen table looking at Tom's picture on the wall. "I don't know what's happening," she said to the photograph, "but I got a feeling tomorrow's going to be different." Tom smiled back at her, frozen in time forever, 45 years old. Evelyn finished her tea and went back to bed. She had no idea that 347 men were sleeping in hotels and trucks in parking lots across Montana, all of them waiting for sunrise. All of them ready to descend on her little town like an army. All of them ready to change her life. At 5 in the morning on March 14th, the first engine started. Then more. Then more. Until the sound was like rolling thunder spreading across the Montana dawn. They rode in formation, wave after wave of motorcycles and trucks, heading south on Highway 12, heading toward Silver Creek, heading toward a promise Cole Maddox had made to a woman who'd shown him that kindness still existed in the world. In Silver Creek, Margaret Chen was the first to hear them. She was making coffee when the sound hit. Low and rumbling and getting louder. She ran to her window and saw them coming. Hundreds of them. Motorcycles filling the highway like a steel river. Trucks following behind, all of them heading toward the same place, heading toward Evelyn Harper's house. Margaret grabbed her phone and dialed. "Sheriff, you better get down here. They're coming, all of them." At Evelyn's house, she woke to the sound of thunder that wasn't thunder. She stumbled to her front window in her nightgown and pulled back the curtain. Her heart stopped. The road was full of motorcycles, dozens of them. No, hundreds of them. They were pulling into her yard, her driveway, the field across the street, engines cutting off one by one until the morning was full of silence and waiting. Evelyn's hands shook. What was happening? Then Cole Maddox climbed off his bike and walked toward her porch. Behind him, 346 men waited. Evelyn opened her door before he could knock. "Morning, ma'am," Cole said quietly. "What?" Evelyn's voice failed. "What is this?" Cole smiled. "This is 37 brothers returning a favor and bringing a few friends." He gestured at the army behind him. "Ma'am, you gave us shelter when we had nothing. You fed us when you barely had food for yourself. You opened your door when the world closed theirs." He paused. "Today, we're returning the kindness." "I don't understand." "You will." Cole pulled a folded piece of paper from his pocket and handed it to her. "These are the plans for your new house. Ray Kowalski drew them up. He's a real architect. We're going to tear down this old place and build you something that'll last another 50 years. We got lumber, materials, equipment, everything you need." Evelyn stared at the plans, at the detailed drawings of rooms and walls and windows, at the little notes in the margins, reinforced foundation, new plumbing throughout energy-efficient heating. "You can't," she whispered. "This is too much. I can't pay for this." "You already did," Cole said gently, "with soup, beans, and kindness. Now let us pay you back." Evelyn looked at the army of bikers standing in her yard. Some of them were holding tools. Others were unloading trucks. All of them were looking at her with something like respect. "How long will it take?" she asked. 1 week, Cole said. "If we work around the clock. If everyone pulls their weight. If God smiles on us." He smiled. "We got 347 men who ain't leaving until it's done." Evelyn felt tears streaming down her face. "Why would you do this?" Cole's voice went soft. "Because cold doesn't care who you are, and kindness shouldn't either. You taught us that. Now we're teaching it back." Behind them, someone started a generator. Someone else revved a chainsaw. The sound of work beginning filled the morning air. And Evelyn Harper, 74-year-old widow who'd been forgotten by everyone who mattered, stood on her porch and watched 300 men prepare to rebuild her life. Sheriff Westbrook's cruiser skidded to a stop at Evelyn's property 10 minutes after the bikers arrived. He jumped out, hand on his weapon, and froze. 300 men were already working. Chainsaws screamed. Sledgehammers swung. The sound of Evelyn's house being torn apart filled the morning like a war zone. "What the hell is going on here?" Westbrook shouted. Cole walked over, calm as Sunday morning. "We're building a house, Sheriff. You can't just tear down a building without permits." "Sure we can. It's her property. She gave permission." "That's not how it works." "Then arrest me." Cole held out his wrists. "But my brothers keep working while you process me. And when I'm out in 2 hours, I come right back and finish the job." Westbrook looked at the army of bikers, then at Evelyn standing on what was left of her porch, tears still streaming down her face, then back at Cole. "How long is this going to take?" "A week, maybe less. And then you leave." "And then we leave." Westbrook holstered his weapon. "I'm stationing deputies here. Anything goes wrong, anything, and I shut this down." "Fair enough," Cole said. "But Sheriff, nothing's going to go wrong." Westbrook walked over to Evelyn. "You okay with this?" Evelyn nodded, unable to speak. "All right then." Westbrook shook his head. "God help us all." By noon, Evelyn's old house was completely gone. Just a concrete slab and memories. She stood in Margaret Chen's driveway across the street, watching men haul debris to trucks, watching her past disappear load by load. "You all right?" Margaret asked. "I don't know," Evelyn whispered. 47 years just got erased in 3 hours." "No," Margaret said gently. 47 years just got preserved. They're not erasing anything, Evelyn. They're protecting it." A truck rumbled past, carrying what was left of her kitchen cabinets. Evelyn felt something break inside her chest. Then Cole appeared. "Ma'am, we found these in the wall." He handed her a bundle of letters tied with string. Tom's letters from Vietnam. She'd hidden them there 30 years ago when David was going through a rebellious phase and she'd wanted to keep them safe. "You found these? Ray made us save everything personal before we tore anything down. We got boxes of stuff. Your wedding china, photo albums, that quilt from your bedroom. Even those drawings your son made when he was little. All of it's safe in the truck. Evelyn clutched the letters. Thank you. It's your history, ma'am. We ain't here to erase it. We're here to give it a better home. He walked away before she could respond. Evelyn held Tom's letters against her chest and cried harder. By evening, the foundation crew was pouring concrete. Ray Kowalski stood over them like a general, barking orders, checking levels, making sure everything was perfect. 2 inches off on the northwest corner, he yelled. We can fix it tomorrow. We fix it now. This foundation supports the whole house. It ain't right, nothing else will be right. They fixed it. Ray checked it again. Nodded. Good. Now let it cure overnight. Nobody touches it until morning. Cole walked over. How we doing? We're behind schedule. We just poured a foundation in 8 hours. Should have been 6, Ray said. We lose daylight in 4 hours. Can't frame in the dark. So we bring lights. You got lights? I got 20 industrial work lights being delivered in an hour. Ray smiled despite himself. You're either a genius or you sold your soul. Both, Cole said. Now what else you need? What Ray needed was everything. More hands, more time, more hours in the day. But what he got was 300 men who refused to quit. They worked through sunset, through dinner, through the night. The work lights turned Evelyn's property into a stage. Neighbors came out to watch. Some brought coffee, others brought food. The hostility that had existed that morning began to crack. Margaret Chen showed up with 50 sandwiches. Figured you boys would be hungry. A biker named Mac took one and bit into it. Ma'am, you just became my favorite person in Montana. I thought that was Evelyn. She's in a different category, Mac said seriously. She's a saint. You're just an angel. Margaret laughed and went back for more food. By midnight, the framing crew had started. Walls went up fast, studs every 16 inches, headers over windows. Everything measured twice and cut once. Ray walked the perimeter, constantly checking every joint, every angle, every nail. This ain't gonna hold, he said, pointing at a wall section. What's wrong with it? You got 3 nails when you need 4. Tear it out. Do it again. Ray, it's midnight. I don't care if it's Christmas. This house will be standing 50 years from now. Tear it out. They tore it out, did it again. Ray checked it, approved it, moved on. Cole found Evelyn sitting in Margaret's living room at 2 a.m, unable to sleep, staring out the window at her property. You should rest, ma'am. Can't, Evelyn said. Every time I close my eyes, I see you boys working yourselves to death for me. We're not dying, we're building. Why? The question burst out of her. Why would you do all this for someone you barely know? Cole sat down across from her. Can I tell you a story? All right. When I got back from Vietnam, I was a mess. PTSD before they had a name for it. Drinking, fighting, couldn't hold a bow, couldn't sleep. One night I got so drunk, I passed out in an alley in the middle of winter. Should have died. He paused, looking at his hands. But I didn't die because some old man found me, dragged me to his house, put me on his couch, kept me there 3 days until I sobered up. Never asked my name, never asked for money, just helped me because I needed help. What happened to him? I never saw him again. Left before he woke up because I was embarrassed, ashamed, but that man saved my life, and I never got to thank him. Cole looked at Evelyn. You remind me of him. Same kindness, same willingness to help people everyone else has given up on. So when I say we're doing this for you, I'm lying. We're doing it for everyone who ever helped us and never got thanked. You're just the one we can actually pay back. Evelyn was quiet for a long time. Then she said, What was his name, the man who saved you? Never knew it. Then I'll thank him for you. Evelyn reached across and squeezed Cole's hand. Thank you for saving this angry young man, for giving him a second chance, for showing him that kindness exists. Cole's eyes got wet. He nodded and left quickly. Day 2 started at sunrise. The walls were up. Ray's crew started on the roof. Another team ran electrical. A third team worked on plumbing. Everyone moved with purpose, with urgency, with something that looked almost like joy. But problems started hitting. The lumber delivery was short. They needed 50 more sheets of plywood, and the supplier wouldn't have it until tomorrow. Then we use what we have for the critical sections, Ray decided. and we work on interior walls until the rest arrives. At noon, the generator died. Just quit. 3 electricians swarmed it, but it was gone. We need power, Ray said. Margaret Chen overheard. Use mine. I'll run an extension cord. Ma'am, we'll blow your breaker. Then I'll reset it. Use my power. They used her power. Her electric bill that month would be astronomical, but she never complained. At 3 in the afternoon, the plumbing crew hit a problem. The old water line from the street was corroded beyond repair. We got to replace the whole line, Tommy Wrench said. How long will that take? 2 days minimum. We don't have 2 days. Then we don't have water. Cole stood there thinking. Then he pulled out his phone and made a call. 20 minutes later, a plumbing company van pulled up. The owner, a guy named Peterson, got out. You, Cole? Yeah. My dad was a biker, Montana chapter. Died in '94. When I heard what you boys were doing, I figured I owed him. Peterson popped his trunk. I got everything you need, and I got a crew coming to help, no charge. They replaced the water line in 6 hours, but the biggest problem hit at sunset on day 2. The bank showed up. A man in a suit and 2 security guards walked onto the property carrying a foreclosure notice. This building is being seized by First Montana Bank, the suit announced. All work must stop immediately. Every tool went silent. 300 men turned to look at him. Cole walked over, slowly. Say that again. This property is in foreclosure. You're trespassing. You need to leave. We're not trespassing. The owner gave us permission. The owner no longer has authority. The bank owns this property as of yesterday. Evelyn came running from Margaret's house. No, you can't do this. Ma'am, you were given 30 days notice. I sent money. You sent $200. You owe $18,000. The property is ours. Evelyn's legs went weak. Margaret Cartier. You can't just take her house while people are building it. We can and we are. If this work continues, we'll have the sheriff arrest everyone here. Cole stepped forward. How much does she owe? $18,400 and... I'll write you a check right now for $20,000. The room went dead silent. The banker blinked. You, what? $20,000, cash today, to clear her debt and give her a buffer. What's your answer? I don't have authority to accept. Then get someone who does, because we're not stopping work. You want to arrest 300 men who are trying to help an old woman. Go ahead. See how that plays on the evening news. The banker looked at Cole, at the bikers surrounding him, at Evelyn sobbing in Margaret's arms, at the neighbors who'd gathered, all of them glaring at him with pure hatred. I'll make a call, he said quietly. He walked to his car, made a phone call that lasted 10 minutes, came back. The bank accepts your offer. $20,000 clears her debt. Good. Cole turned to his men. Who's got cash? I got 300, someone yelled. 500 here. I got 1,000. 200. The numbers kept coming. Bikers pulling out wallets, counting bills, passing money forward like an offering. In 10 minutes, they'd collected $19,000 in cash. Cole counted it. 19,200. He looked at Ray. You got 800 on you? Ray pulled out his wallet. I got 900. Cole took it, counted out 20,000 exactly, handed it to the banker. Count it. The banker counted it. His hand shook. It's all here. Good. Now write her a receipt and a letter stating her debt is paid in full, and get the hell off this property before I change my mind about being polite. The banker wrote the receipt with a trembling hand, gave it to Evelyn, left with his security guards practically running. The moment they were gone, Evelyn collapsed, just fell to her knees in the dirt, holding the receipt, sobbing so hard she couldn't breathe. Cole knelt beside her. You're okay now, ma'am. House is yours, free and clear. I can't pay you back. Nobody's asking you to. He helped her stand. You fed 37 men with your last food. We just fed you back. That's how this works. The bikers erupted in cheers, tools revved back to life. Work resumed, but something had shifted. The town had watched the whole thing, watched the bikers pool their money, watched them fight for Evelyn when nobody else would. And the town's opinion started to change. By day 3, locals were helping. The hardware store owner donated paint. The diner sent over breakfast and lunch. Kids rode their bikes over to watch, and the bikers let them help carry tools, hold measuring tapes, feel useful. One kid, maybe 9 years old, asked a biker named Ghost, "Are you really in a gang?" "We're a club, not a gang." "What's the difference?" "A gang takes from people. A club protects them." The kid thought about that. "You're protecting Mrs. Harper. We're protecting the kindness she showed us. There's a difference." The kid didn't fully understand, but he nodded anyway. By day 4, the house had walls and a roof. By day 5, they were running electrical and plumbing. By day 6, insulation and drywall were going up. Ray pushed everyone harder. "We're behind. We should be painting by now." "Ray, we're building a house in a week. A week's what we promised. We're not finishing on day 8. We finish on day 7. So they worked harder, longer. Some guys slept 3 hours and came back. Others didn't sleep at all. Evelyn tried to feed everyone, tried to help, but Cole made her rest. "Ma'am, you've done enough. Let us do this." "I should be helping." "You are helping. Every time we get tired, we think about you opening that door in the blizzard. That's all the help we need." On the morning of day 6, David Harper finally called his mother. "Mom, what the hell is going on?" "Someone sent me a news article about bikers rebuilding your house." "It's true," Evelyn said quietly. "Why didn't you tell me you were in foreclosure?" "I tried. You were busy." "I'm never too busy for David." Evelyn's voice went hard. "I called you 17 times in 3 months. You returned 1 call with a text. So don't tell me you're not too busy." Silence on the line. "Are you okay?" David asked finally. "I'm better than okay. I'm surrounded by people who actually care." "Mom, I care?" "Then prove it. Get on a plane. Come see what these men are doing for me. Come see what real kindness looks like." She hung up before he could respond. Cole found her crying again. "Bad news. My son finally called." "That's good, isn't it?" "I don't know anymore." Evelyn wiped her eyes. "When did strangers become more family than family?" "When family stopped acting like family," Cole said simply. Day 7 arrived. Crunch time. The house was close but not finished. Paint wasn't done. Fixtures weren't installed. The kitchen was half assembled. Ray gathered everyone at dawn. "This is it. 16 hours to finish. I need miracles from everyone." They gave him miracles. The painting crew finished 3 rooms by noon. The fixture crew installed lights, outlets, switches in record time. The kitchen crew assembled cabinets like they were in a race. The flooring crew laid tile and wood faster than should be possible. By 4 in the afternoon, the house was 90% done. By 6, 95%. By 8, they were installing doorknobs and light switches and outlet covers. At 9:30, Ray walked through every room with a checklist, checked every detail, every finish, every corner. He came back out and faced Cole. "It's done." "You sure?" "It's perfect, better than perfect. That woman's gonna live in the nicest house in Silver Creek." Cole nodded, turned to his army. "We're done, brothers. Let's bring her home." Margaret Chen walked Evelyn across the street at 10 o'clock that night. Every step felt like walking towards something impossible, something too good to be real. "I can't look," Evelyn whispered. "Yes, you can." "What if it's not right? What if I hate it?" "Evelyn Harper, stop making excuses and open your eyes." But Evelyn kept them shut. She heard voices, felt hands guiding her, felt gravel under her feet turn to something smooth, a walkway she didn't have before. "Okay," Cole's voice said gently. "Open them." Evelyn opened her eyes. The house glowing in front of her wasn't hers. Couldn't be hers. It was too beautiful. Too perfect. White siding caught the moonlight. A wraparound porch she'd always wanted but never had stretched across the front. Windows twice the size of her old ones reflected the stars. "That's not..." Her voice broke. "That's not my house." "It is now," Ray said. Evelyn's knees buckled. Cole caught her. "Easy, ma'am. I can't accept this." "Too late. It's already yours. Deeds in your name. Taxes paid for the year. Everything legal." "But I never..." "You fed 37 men when you had nothing," Cole said quietly. "This is what nothing turned into." Margaret was crying beside her. The bikers stood in a semicircle watching Evelyn's face. Some of them were crying too. "Can I..." Evelyn couldn't finish the sentence. Go inside, Ray said. It's your house. Evelyn walked up the porch steps slowly. Her hand touched the railing. Solid, new, perfect. The front door was oak with a glass panel etched with flowers. She opened it and stepped into a dream. The living room was 3 times bigger than before. Hardwood floors gleamed. A stone fireplace dominated one wall. Furniture she'd never seen before sat arranged perfectly. Her old furniture mixed with new pieces that somehow matched. "That's my couch," she whispered. "We reupholstered it," a biker named Jimmy said. "Figured you'd want to keep it." Evelyn walked to the fireplace mantel. Her wedding photo sat there in a new frame, Tom's purple heart beside it. The clock Tom's father had made hung above it all. "You saved everything," she said. "Told you we would." She moved to the kitchen. Stopped. Gasped. White cabinets, granite countertops, new appliances, an island she could actually cook on. Windows over the sink that looked out at the mountains. "Oh my God," Evelyn breathed. "Custom cabinets," Ray said, "made by a brother who's a master carpenter." "That island's solid walnut. Those windows are triple pane. You'll never feel a draft again." Evelyn opened a cabinet. Her dishes were inside, the same chipped plates she'd eaten off for 40 years. But they'd been arranged so carefully, so respectfully. She opened the pantry. It was full, completely stocked. "We took up a collection," Cole said. "Figured you'd need food." The tears came again. Evelyn couldn't stop them. She moved through the house in a daze. The bathroom had a walk-in shower with safety bars. The bedroom had her old bed with a new mattress, her quilts on top, Tom's picture on the nightstand. But when she opened the closet, she found something that broke her completely. All her clothes had been washed and hung up. Even the ones that had been sitting in laundry baskets for months. Everything clean, everything pressed, everything cared for. "We had sisters do the laundry," Cole said quietly. "Didn't feel right for us guys to handle your personal things." Evelyn turned to him. "You thought of everything." "We tried." She walked to the back door, opened it, looked out at the yard, and saw Tom's workshop. Not the collapsed pile of wood it had been, but rebuilt, exactly as it had looked 40 years ago when Tom was still alive. The same green paint, the same hand-carved sign over the door that said Tom's Place. Even the window placement was identical. Evelyn couldn't breathe. She walked toward it like she was in a trance, pushed open the door. Inside, Tom's old tools hung on the walls. His workbench stood in the center. Plans he'd drawn decades ago were framed and mounted. Everything preserved, everything honored. She found Cole standing in the doorway. "How did you—" She couldn't finish. "Ray found photos in your albums, photos of your husband working in here. We rebuilt it from the pictures." "Why? Because a home isn't just walls and rooms, it's memories, and we didn't want you losing his." Evelyn fell apart, just completely shattered. She sat on Tom's workbench and sobbed like her heart was tearing open. 47 years of loneliness and loss and grief poured out of her in waves. Cole didn't try to stop her, didn't try to comfort her. He just stood there, keeping watch while she cried for her dead husband, for her absent son, for the life she'd lost and the one she'd just been given. When she finally stopped, she looked at Cole with red eyes. "I don't know how to thank you. You already did, 7 days ago when you opened your door. That was just soup beans. That was everything, ma'am. You gave us dignity when the world took it. You gave us shelter when everyone else locked their doors. You treated us like human beings when most people see us as animals." Cole's voice went rough. "You don't owe us thanks. We owe you the rest of our lives." Outside, the bikers had started their engines, one by one. The rumble built until it shook the ground. "We need to go," Cole said. "But before we do, there's one more thing." He led Evelyn to the front yard. 347 men stood beside their bikes in formation. As she appeared, they all raised their right fist in salute. "Ma'am," Cole called out, "these men came from 5 states, took time off work, spent their own money, worked around the clock, all because you showed 37 strangers what kindness looks like. They asked me to tell you something." He turned to face her fully. "They said thank you for reminding them why they wear these patches, for showing them that brotherhood means taking care of people who can't take care of themselves, for proving that kindness still exists in this world." He paused. They said you're an honorary member of every chapter represented here. And if you ever need anything at all, you call them. They'll come. The bikers revved their engines in agreement. The sound was deafening. Evelyn looked at the army of men who'd given her back her life. I don't know what to say. Say you'll take care of yourself, Cole said. Say you'll live in this house and be happy. Say you'll remember that people care about you. That's all we need to hear. I will, Evelyn whispered. Then louder, I will. Cole nodded, climbed on his bike, started the engine. One by one, the bikers followed him out of her yard, down her street, onto Highway 12. The thunder of their departure faded slowly until Silver Creek was quiet again. Evelyn stood in front of her new house with Margaret beside her, watching them disappear into the darkness. That really just happened, Margaret said. Yeah. You just had 300 bikers rebuild your entire house in 7 days. Yeah. Evelyn, do you understand how insane that is? Evelyn laughed. Actually laughed. For the first time in years. Yeah, I really do. They went inside. Evelyn toured every room again, touching everything, making sure it was real. In the kitchen, she found envelopes stacked on the counter. She opened the first one. Inside was a letter written in rough handwriting. Thank you for the soup beans. They were the best meal I've had in years. You're a good woman. Don't ever change. Snake. She opened another. My mom died 3 years ago. I didn't get to thank her for everything she did. Thank you for letting me thank you instead, Mac. Another, you remind me why I became a biker in the first place. To protect people who need protecting. To help people who need help. To be the man my father never was. Thank you for reminding me. Torch. There were 47 letters, one from every crew leader, every team captain, every person who'd worked on her house, all of them saying the same thing in different ways. Thank you for seeing us as human. Evelyn read every single one. By the end, she couldn't see through her tears. Margaret found her at midnight, sitting at her new kitchen table, letters spread out in front of her. You should sleep, Margaret said. I can't. Every time I close my eyes, I think I'm going to wake up and this will all be way. It's not going anywhere. This is real. I know. That's what scares me. Why does it scare you? Evelyn looked at her. Because I don't deserve it. Yes, you do. I just gave them food, Margaret, that's all. Food and shelter. People do that every day. No, they don't. That's the point. People don't do that. People lock their doors. People cross the street. People pretend not to see. Margaret sat down across from her. You didn't. You opened your door to men everyone else fears. That's not nothing, Evelyn. That's everything. Evelyn was quiet for a long time. Then she said, Tom would have loved this. Yeah, he would have. He always said the world needs more kindness, more people willing to help strangers. Sounds like he married the right woman. Evelyn smiled through her tears. I miss him so much. I know. They sat in silence, 2 old women in a brand new kitchen processing a miracle. At 1 a.m, Evelyn's phone rang. She looked at the caller ID, David. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. Mom. David's voice was thick. Mom, I saw the news. I saw what they did. I'm at the airport. I'm getting on a flight. I'll be there by morning. Evelyn's heart clenched. Why now, David? Where were you the last 6 months when I needed you? I know I screwed up. I was busy with work and Sarah and the kids, and I forgot what's important. But Mom, when I saw those bikers giving you back your house, I realized something. What? That strangers cared more about my mother than I did. And that's unforgivable. Evelyn closed her eyes. David, please, Mom, please let me come. Let me see the house. Let me apologize in person. Let me be your son again. Evelyn thought about Cole, about how he'd knelt beside her in the snow and asked for nothing, about how 300 men had worked themselves to exhaustion for a woman they barely knew. All right, she said finally, come home. I'll be there by 8. I'll make breakfast. She hung up, looked at Margaret. My son's coming. Good. Is it after everything? Everyone deserves a second chance, Evelyn. You know that better than anyone. Evelyn nodded slowly. Yeah, I guess I do. At 2 a.m, she finally went to bed, lay in her old bed with its new mattress, stared at Tom's picture on the nightstand. We did it, Tom, she whispered. We raised a good boy. He just forgot for a while, but he's coming back. She fell asleep holding Tom's picture. At 3 in the morning, Sheriff Westbrook sat in his cruiser outside Evelyn's house writing his report. He'd been documenting everything for 7 days, watching for trouble, waiting for something to go wrong. Nothing had gone wrong. Instead, he'd watched 300 men work themselves to exhaustion for no reward. Watch them pool their money to save a stranger's home. Watch them treat an old woman with more respect than most people showed their own mothers. He closed his report, sat there thinking. Then he picked up his radio. "Dispatch, this is Unit 7. Go ahead, 7. I need you to pull every Hells Angels citation we've issued in the last 5 years. Every warning, every harassment stop. Sheriff, pull them and archive them. We're starting fresh." "You sure about that?" "Yeah, I'm sure." Westbrook out. He sat there watching Evelyn's house glow in the darkness. Watched lights turn off one by one as she settled in. Watched her find peace in a place that had almost killed her, and he realized something he should have realized years ago. People aren't what they wear, they're what they do. At 4 in the morning, Cole Maddox pulled into a truck stop 200 miles away. His brothers were scattered across 3 states by now, all heading home, all exhausted, all satisfied. He checked his phone, found a text from Ray. "Best project I ever worked on. Thank you for including me." Another text from Torch. "Already got calls from 2 other towns, people needing help. You thinking what I'm thinking?" Cole smiled, texted back, "Yeah, I'm thinking we just started something." Another text from Tommy Wrench. "My wife says I'm glowing, says she hasn't seen me this happy in years. Thanks, brother." Cole looked at his reflection in the truck stop window. He did look different, lighter, like something heavy he'd been carrying had finally been lifted. He thought about Vietnam, about the old man who'd saved him, about 40 years of guilt for never saying thank you. Maybe he couldn't thank that man, but he'd just thanked him through Evelyn. Had just passed the kindness forward. Had just proven that the chain doesn't break. It just keeps going. He started his bike, headed home. Behind him, the Montana sky was turning gray with dawn. At 8 in the morning, David Harper's rental car pulled up to his mother's house. He sat there staring at it for 5 minutes. Not because he didn't recognize it, but because he couldn't believe it was real. Finally, he got out, walked to the front door, knocked. Evelyn opened it. They stared at each other. Then David said, "Mom, I'm so sorry." And Evelyn pulled her son into her arms and held him while he cried on her porch. Both of them finally finding each other again after years of being lost. Inside, breakfast was waiting. The house smelled like coffee and hope. Outside, Silver Creek was waking up to a new day. A day where 300 bikers had proven that brotherhood means something. That kindness isn't dead, that people still care. And in a small farmhouse on the edge of Highway 12, an elderly widow was learning what Evelyn Harper had known all along, but had forgotten in her loneliness that love given away always comes back. Maybe not from where you expect, maybe not when you expect, but it always comes back. Evelyn served her son breakfast in her new kitchen. They talked. Really talked, for the first time in years. David told her about his life, his struggles, his failures, his regrets. And Evelyn listened, forgave, understood, because that's what mothers do. That's what people do when they remember what matters. Outside, Margaret Sheehan sat on her porch watching Evelyn's house, watching smoke curl from the chimney, watching a family heal. She smiled and went back inside, grateful to witness something most people never see: a miracle performed by the most unlikely angels. By noon, the story had spread beyond Silver Creek. News vans showed up. Reporters knocked on Evelyn's door. She sent them away. Some stories aren't meant to be televised. They're meant to be lived. But one reporter, a young woman named Sarah Chen, Margaret's granddaughter, managed to get 5 minutes with Evelyn that afternoon. "Mrs. Harper, why do you think they did this?" Evelyn thought about it. "Because kindness recognizes kindness. Because I treated them like human beings when nobody else would. Because they wanted to prove that the world isn't as broken as everyone thinks." What would you say to people who are afraid of bikers? I'd say fear blinds you. I'd say stop looking at jackets and start looking at actions. I'd say some of the best people I've ever met wear leather and ride motorcycles. She paused. And I'd say judge people by how they treat strangers in storms, not by what they look like on sunny days. The interview aired that night, went viral by morning. Within a week, the story had been covered by every major news network. Evelyn's face was everywhere. The bikers' faces were everywhere. But the real impact happened quietly, in small towns across America, in places where people had locked their doors against strangers, where kindness had died from fear and suspicion. People started opening their doors again. 3 weeks after the house was finished, Cole's phone rang at midnight. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer. "This is Cole." "Mr. Maddox, my name is Patricia Brennan. I'm calling from Kansas City. I saw what you did for Mrs. Harper." Cole sat up in bed. "Okay. My mother is 81 years old. She's living in a house that's literally collapsing around her. She's too proud to ask for help, too stubborn to leave. I'm a single mom working 2 jobs and I can't afford to fix it and I don't know what to do. And I saw your story and I thought maybe..." "Give me the address," Cole said. By morning, he'd made 16 calls. By afternoon, chapters from Missouri, Kansas, and Oklahoma were mobilizing. 2 weeks later, Patricia Brennan's mother had a new house. The calls kept coming. A veteran in Oregon whose medical bills had bankrupted him, a school teacher in Nevada whose house had burned down with no insurance, a family in Wyoming caring for foster children in a 2-bedroom trailer. Cole's phone never stopped ringing. "We can't help everyone," Ray told him one night. "So we help who we can," Cole said. "You're going to burn out." "Then I burn out doing something that matters." Ray shook his head. "You're either the best man I know or the craziest." "Both," Cole said. "Definitely both." But the real change happened in Silver Creek itself. Margaret Chen started a program at the church. Every month they identified someone in town who needed help. Then the whole community showed up to do it. Fix a roof, paint a house, repair a car, whatever was needed. The hardware store owner, Jim Patterson, started giving discounts to elderly residents. The diner began delivering free meals to people who couldn't cook anymore. The bank, embarrassed by their role in Evelyn's foreclosure, created a hardship loan program. Silver Creek was learning what Evelyn had taught 300 bikers, that kindness multiplies when you give it away. Sheriff Westbrook changed too. He started a program pairing officers with local biker clubs for community projects. At first, his deputies thought he'd lost his mind. "Sheriff, we're supposed to arrest these guys, not work with them." "We're supposed to serve the community," Westbrook corrected. "They served Mrs. Harper better than we ever did. Maybe we should learn from that." The program started small, bikers and cops building a playground together, then renovating the community center, then creating a youth program teaching motorcycle maintenance and responsibility. Crime in Silver Creek dropped 30% that year, not because of arrests, because people started caring about their neighbors again. But the biggest change happened in Evelyn herself. David moved back to Montana, not to Silver Creek, but to Bozeman, 90 minutes away, close enough to visit every weekend, close enough to rebuild what they'd broken. "I got a job at the university," he told her one Sunday over dinner. "Teaching engineering. It pays less than Seattle, but it's closer to you, and that's what matters." Evelyn reached across the table and squeezed his hand. "Your father would be proud." "I hope so. I wasted a lot of years being the wrong kind of son." "You're here now, that's what counts." But that night after David left, Evelyn sat in Tom's workshop crying. Not sad tears, grateful tears, overwhelmed tears, the kind that come when life gives you back something you thought was lost forever. She was still sitting there when headlights swept across the window. A motorcycle pulled into her driveway. Cole Maddox climbed off his bike and knocked on the workshop door. "Ma'am, you okay?" Evelyn wiped her eyes. "Just thinking. Mind if I join you?" "Come in." Cole sat on Tom's workbench beside her. They were quiet for a while. "Thank you," Evelyn said finally. "For what?" "For giving me my son back. David wouldn't have come home if you hadn't built this house. Wouldn't have realized what he was losing. You didn't just save my house, Cole. You saved my family." Cole was quiet. "That was all you, ma'am. You're the one who opened the door. We just finished what you started." "Still, thank you." They sat in comfortable silence. Then Cole said, "Can I ask you something? Anything? That night in the storm, when you opened the door, were you scared, terrified? Then why'd you do it?" Evelyn thought about it. "Because Tom always said fear is just love that hasn't found its courage yet. I love the idea that people could still help each other, so I found the courage to open the door." Cole nodded slowly. "That's the wisest thing I've ever heard." Tom was wise. I just remembered his words. Well, his words changed 300 lives, changed the whole town, changed me. How did it change you? Change. Cole looked at his hands. I spent 40 years carrying guilt for all the people I couldn't save in Vietnam, all the brothers I lost, all the lives I couldn't protect. I thought that weight would kill me eventually. He paused. But helping you lifted it, gave me a way to pay back all the kindness I'd received and never repaid. You gave me peace, ma'am. I owed you a house. You gave me my life back. Evelyn reached over and took his hand. Then we're even. Cole smiled. Yeah, we're even. He left shortly after. Evelyn watched his taillights disappear down Highway 12, then went inside to her beautiful house that had been built by strangers who'd become family. 6 months later, Evelyn got a letter from the governor of Montana. She opened it at her kitchen table with Margaret watching over her shoulder. Oh my God, Margaret breathed. The governor was awarding Evelyn the Montana Humanitarian Award for exemplifying the best qualities of citizenship and inspiring statewide community improvement. I don't deserve this, Evelyn said. You absolutely do. I just fed some people soup beans. You changed the entire state, Margaret said firmly. Do you know how many towns have started community help programs because of you, 47? I counted. 47 towns across Montana where neighbors are helping neighbors because they saw what happened here. Evelyn stared at the letter. 47? That's what kindness does, Evelyn. It spreads. You threw a pebble in a pond, and now the ripples are everywhere. The award ceremony was held in Helena. Cole and 50 of his brothers rode escort for Evelyn. David came with his wife and kids. Margaret drove. Sheriff Westbrook came in full dress uniform. Evelyn stood at the podium in front of 500 people and spoke for 3 minutes. I didn't do anything special, she said quietly. I just did what my husband, Tom, taught me to do. See people as people. Help when you can. Open doors instead of locking them. The real heroes are the men who built my house. The men who showed me that brotherhood means taking care of people who can't take care of themselves. The men who proved that kindness isn't dead. It's just been waiting for someone to practice it. The crowd gave her a standing ovation that lasted 5 minutes. But the moment that broke her happened after the ceremony. A young woman approached her crying. Mrs. Harper, I need to tell you something. Okay, honey. My name is Amanda Wilson. 6 months ago, I was homeless, living in my car with my 2 kids. Terrified, ashamed, trying to keep it together. She wiped her eyes. I heard about what you did, how you helped those bikers when you had nothing. And I thought if she can be brave enough to help strangers, I can be brave enough to ask for help. What happened? I went to a church, told them I needed shelter. They gave me a place to stay, connected me with job services, helped me get back on my feet. I start a new job Monday. I got an apartment. My kids are in school. Amanda grabbed Evelyn's hands. You saved my life by saving yours, by showing me that asking for help isn't weakness. It's courage. Evelyn pulled Amanda into a hug while both of them cried. Around them, other people were sharing similar stories. A man who'd almost committed suicide but decided to get help instead. A teenager who'd been planning to run away but stayed and talked to her parents. A couple who'd been on the verge of divorce but decided to fight for their marriage. All of them touched by Evelyn's story, all of them changed by one woman's decision to open a door in a blizzard. On the drive home, David said, Mom, do you realize what you've become? Old, Evelyn said. A symbol. You're a symbol of everything good that still exists in this world. Evelyn looked out the window at the Montana landscape rolling past. I'm just a woman who got lucky. No, Cole said from his bike riding alongside the car. He'd rolled down his window to talk. You're a woman who chose kindness when fear would have been easier. There's a difference. That night, back in Silver Creek, Evelyn sat on her porch watching the sunset. Margaret joined her with 2 cups of tea. Big day, Margaret said. Overwhelming day. You okay? I'm scared, Evelyn admitted. Of what? That I won't live up to what people think I am, that I'll disappoint them, that I'll prove I'm just an ordinary woman who did an ordinary thing. Margaret set down her tea. Evelyn, you are an ordinary woman who did an ordinary thing. That's exactly why it matters. Because if you can do it, anyone can do it. You didn't save those bikers because you're special. You saved them because you chose to. And that choice rippled out and changed thousands of lives. That's not pressure. That's proof. Proof that ordinary people doing ordinary kindness can change the world. Evelyn thought about that. Tom used to say something similar. Tom was a smart man. He really was. They sat in silence, watching the sun paint the sky orange and red and purple. 2 years later, Cole called Evelyn with news. Ma'am, I wanted you to hear it from me first. We're starting a foundation. Officially, we're calling it the Evelyn Harper Foundation for Community Kindness. Evelyn almost dropped the phone. You're what? We've helped 83 families in 2 years, built houses, paid medical bills, bought cars, fixed roofs, all because you showed us it was possible. Now we're making it official, getting nonprofit status, setting up fundraising, doing it right. Cole, you can't name it after me. Already did. Paperwork's filed. You're listed as honorary founder. I didn't found anything. Yeah, you did, ma'am. You founded the idea that kindness is still worth practicing, that helping strangers matters, that brotherhood extends beyond the club patches to everyone who needs it. You founded all of that the night you opened your door. Evelyn was quiet. Then she said, what do you need from me? Just keep being you. Keep reminding us why we do this. Keep being the example we follow. I don't know how to be an example. You already are. Just don't stop. The foundation grew faster than anyone expected. Donations poured in, volunteers signed up, other motorcycle clubs joined, then church groups, then Rotary clubs, then entire towns. Within 3 years, the Evelyn Harper Foundation had helped over 500 families, built 50 houses, paid $1 million in medical bills, created community improvement projects in 70 towns across 10 states, and at the center of it all was a 79-year-old widow who still couldn't quite believe any of it was real. On the 5-year anniversary of the night she'd opened her door, Silver Creek held a celebration. The whole town turned out. Bikers came from 15 states. The governor returned. News cameras showed up. But Evelyn almost didn't attend. I don't want to be celebrated, she told David. Mom, this isn't about celebrating you. It's about celebrating what you started. Let people honor that. So she went, stood in front of her town while Cole presented her with a plaque that read, To Evelyn Harper, who taught us that one act of kindness can change the world. Thank you for opening the door. She gave a short speech, talked about Tom, about the importance of helping strangers, about how fear keeps us locked inside while kindness sets us free. But the moment that everyone remembered happened at the end. A little girl, maybe 7 years old, walked up to Evelyn and handed her a drawing. I made this for you, the girl said shyly. The drawing showed a house with a big door. Above the door in crayon letters it said, Be brave, open doors. Evelyn knelt down. What's your name, honey? Emma. This is beautiful, Emma. Thank you. My mommy says you're a hero because you weren't afraid to help people. I was afraid. Very afraid. Emma looked confused. But you did it anyway. Yes. Then that makes you even braver, Emma said seriously. Evelyn pulled the little girl into a hug. Over Emma's shoulder, she saw the crowd. Saw Cole wiping his eyes. Saw Ray nodding. Saw David crying. Saw Margaret beaming. Saw Sheriff Westbrook standing at attention. Saw 300 bikers with their fists raised in salute. Saw an entire town that had learned what she'd learned in a blizzard 5 years ago, that helping strangers isn't foolish. It's human. And humanity is worth the risk. Evelyn Harper died peacefully in her sleep on a cold February morning at age 86, 12 years after the night that changed everything. David found her in her bed, Tom's picture clutched to her chest, a smile on her face. The funeral was held in Silver Creek. They had to close down Main Street to fit everyone. Over 2,000 people came, bikers from 20 states, community leaders from 70 towns, families the foundation had helped. Strangers whose lives had been touched by her story. Cole Maddox delivered the eulogy. Evelyn Harper didn't change the world because she was extraordinary, he said, his voice carrying across the silent crowd. She changed it because she was ordinary, because she showed us that ordinary people making ordinary choices to be kind can create extraordinary results. She opened a door in a snowstorm, that's all. But that door opened other doors, and those doors opened more doors, until kindness spread like light, driving out darkness. He looked at Evelyn's casket. She told me once that her husband Tom said fear is just love that hasn't found its courage yet. Evelyn found that courage, and she taught thousands of us to find ours. She proved that brotherhood isn't limited to patches or clubs. It's a choice to help, to care, to open doors when everyone else locks theirs. His voice broke. Thank you, ma'am, for showing us the way, for saving us when we needed saving, for reminding us that we're all human, all worthy of kindness, all capable of giving it. The procession to the cemetery was 7 miles long, motorcycles and cars and trucks, all of them following Evelyn to her final rest beside Tom. At the graveside, the Hells Angels performed a ceremony reserved for fallen brothers, revved their engines, raised their fists, formed an honor guard. And beside her grave, they placed a bronze plaque that would stay there forever. Evelyn Harper, 1940 to 2026. She opened her door when the world closed theirs, and in doing so taught us all how to live. But the real memorial wasn't the plaque, it was what happened next. The Evelyn Harper Foundation didn't close. It grew. David took over as director. Margaret joined the board. Cole remained president. Ray stayed on as construction coordinator. They kept building, kept helping, kept spreading the kindness Evelyn had started. 10 years after her death, the foundation had helped over 5,000 families, built 300 houses, created community programs in 200 towns, inspired similar organizations across the country, and every person helped was told Evelyn's story, told about the night she opened her door to 37 strangers in a blizzard, told about how kindness given away always comes back multiplied, told that ordinary people can change the world. In Silver Creek, Emma, the little girl who'd given Evelyn the drawing, grew up inspired by the stories she'd heard all her life. At 22, she became the youngest volunteer coordinator for the foundation. At 30, she started a youth program teaching kids that helping others is the highest calling. At 35, she opened her own door to strangers who needed help, and the ripple continued. Because that's what Evelyn Harper proved on a frozen Montana night when she fed 37 hungry men with her last food. That kindness never dies. It just keeps spreading. One door at a time, one choice at a time, one person at a time, until the whole world is warmer for it. And somewhere in whatever comes after this life, Evelyn Harper sits beside her husband, Tom, watching their legacy ripple outward forever, knowing that cold doesn't care who you are, but kindness shouldn't either.